Carolina needs a backup point guard, and Oregon transfer Wei Lin, well, he might just be the ticket.
This is Tyler Zeller, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast. I'm your host, Isaac Shade. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The biggest stage in world soccer is here. Let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started right now. Coming up later on the show, we're going to be looking at both the Diamond Heels and Ole Miss's offense. Carolina going to have to do better in clutch moments in the College World Series if they want to advance. I've got numbers on that from last weekend and how and why Carolina needs to improve. Plus, as I started digging into Ole Miss's offense, there is a stat you need to hear that is kind of mind-boggling. We'll get there later in the show. But first, I want to continue to look at Wei Lin. We talked about him briefly late last week. I want to talk about him more tonight. That's going to be really good. By the way, speaking of the World Cup, America, the men's first match is going to be going on literally at the same time as Carolina and Ole Miss on Friday night, like 48 hours from right now as we're live. That's crazy stuff. Can't wait for both of those. Two very quick hitter things about baseball before we talk about Wei Lin. Number one, South Carolina has officially hired Coastal Carolina coach Kevin Schnall, meaning Scott Forbes is officially staying at North Carolina. That was always the expectation for me. I didn't see a world in which there was a reality. I know people were trying to make it a thing. It just was not going to be. The other quick hitter thing on baseball, massive, huge ovation and congrats to Caden Glauber, Carolina's stud freshman pitcher. Jackson Rose is another stud freshman pitcher, but Caden Glauber is the co-national freshman pitcher of the year for perfect game. Crazy cool stuff there. The other co-pitcher is Texas's closer. His name's not coming to my brain right now, but how crazy would it be for Carolina and Texas to face off in the championship series? That would be nuts. All right, let's talk Wei Lin. By the way, I want to thank my guy Michael Chen for his really thoughtful email about Wei Lin that came in earlier this week. Michael, I know I replied to it and said thanks. I just wanted to do it publicly here as well. So thank you for your heartfelt email. That meant a lot to me. Okay, Wei Lin, just a little bit about him. We'll talk about why Carolina might go after him, why it's coming up more now, all of that. So he is a rising sophomore, so lots of eligibility, at least 3 years, and if 5 and 5 happens, it could be even 4. He is 6'4", 190, Wei Lin is. So there's some good positional size there that he could add to the table. Wei Lin is Chinese from mainland China. And as a reminder, I said this on Monday's show. Let me say it again because I want to continue to correct this record. I mistakenly said that he and Jeremy Lin, you remember that played in the NBA, were brothers. That is not the case. There's another Wei Lin basketball player who I believe actually goes by, I think it's Joseph. And they are not related. So my bad on that. Had it wrong, went back, and I had just read the wrong thing about a different Wei Lin. So again, apologies to that, but be ye not confused. Wei Lin from mainland China and Jeremy Lin is not. So there you go on that. So as you think about this, like, who is he? Well, Wei Lin is a transfer guard from Oregon. As you think about what he's able to do, he is primarily like a point guard, a combo guard. It's hard to really look at his Oregon numbers from last year and get an idea of like what all he's capable of. And the reason for that is he just didn't play a ton, like 17 minutes a game, played in 30 games, started 9. Some of that is Jackson Shellstad's injury, but averaged 6.6 points a game, 1.7 assists to 1.2 turnovers, shot 82.4% at the free throw line. You love that. Was under 30% from 3 on 3.5 attempts per game, just shy of half a steal a game. And so like the raw numbers from the assists aren't there, but if you go look at the advanced numbers, His assist percentage, 19.5, turnover percentage, 14.6%. So you'd like to see those differentiate themselves a little more, but he's highly capable. The numbers back in the CBA were really, really good. And so there is that with him. So why is he kind of surfacing now? Why are we talking about him tonight? Well, over the weekend, the understanding from Inside Carolina's reporting is on Sunday, he just came back to America from China. He was back home visiting. And so now is this very specific time for him to start making a decision about where he's going to go to school next year for the 26-27 season. Again, from Inside Carolina's reporting, it sounds like the two leaders in that are either staying at Oregon, like we've seen that happen. Seth Trimble did it, entered the portal, came back to Carolina. We had two different guys do that this offseason in Isaiah Dennis and Jaden Young. That was great news. And so it sounds like going back to Oregon or coming to Carolina are at the top of the list right now. There might be other things that emerge, but you know how it goes in the transfer portal. People make different decisions all the time. And there are going to be a bunch of programs around the country looking for more guard help. And so that's part of it as well. So we'll see what he ultimately decides. But from him coming back to America, from us kind of getting now into the summer with summer school sessions getting close to start, you would think this is the time to go ahead and make some sort of decision. So I would expect we would hear, I'm going to say soon, but I don't even know if by that I'm meaning a day or two or a couple weeks. But I by soon, I mean like less than 2 months. I would assume we're going to hear that, right? So what's needed? Like, why would you go after Wei Lin? Why does this make sense? Well, obviously, Carolina's not looking for a starting guard. They have that in Terrence Brown. They have that in Neo Avdalis, who can handle the ball and get the team going very well. They're looking for somebody who can steady the offense. They're looking for someone who can be playable, not just like that emergency insurance for if Terrence Brown gets hurt or is in foul trouble. I mean, that's certainly part of it, but it's not just like, oh boy, like it's more than a Stillman White kind of replacement is what I mean there. And so what you're not looking for is Terrence Brown 2.0 or Neo Avdalis or Matt Abel. You need someone who can stabilize things behind the starting point guard. The question is not like, can Wei Lin be Kendall Marshall or Marcus Page or RJ Davis or any of that, Ty Lawson, whatever. It's just, can Wei Lin give Michael Malone that, last year, what I say, 17 minutes a game? Can he give him 10 minutes a game in the guard rotation? That's a great question. Part of this too is as you think about the makeup of Carolina's backcourt, you got to start thinking about how that factors in as well. Let me give you the most recent roster makeup. In that guard rotation, you would have Terrence Brown, you would have Jaden Young, you would have Matt Abel, you would have Neo Avdalis, you would have Isaiah Dennis, who it sounds like, and I'm excited for Coach Rob to get there for Carolina Basketball School this summer to figure out more about it, but that Isaiah Dennis is almost certainly continuing to work on his ball handling point guard capabilities, but you've got him in that mix as well. I would imagine Malloy Smith might factor into that some. He's not really like a true guard, but he's a bigger guard with some really good size. And so maybe that's a thing. That wouldn't be Kevin Thomas. He's more of a wing. It wouldn't be Maximo Adams. He's more of a wing. And so you can never have enough ball handlers. And so certainly that's the kind of thing that Coach Malone is looking for as he talks to Wei Lin, or if it's not Wei Lin, eventually somebody else. And here's the thing. To me, this is not about, is he getting paid a ton of money or none? One of the interesting wrinkles now in the portal era, in the NIL era specifically, is, well, we paid this guy $4 million, so we got to play him. Michael Malone has been an NBA coach and somebody who is not going to just play you because you signed a big contract. I got to win. I got to have my dudes who do it. So if Wei Lin can come in and compete and get time, kudos to you, right? We'll see what happens. So if that's the role, what exactly would Wei Lin bring to Carolina if he chooses to come to Chapel Hill and be a Tar Heel? Things like ball security, decision-making, the ability to initiate offense, the comfort playing on or off the ball if you wanted to pull him off the ball. I think not applying last year's 3-point numbers, but I think having a second year in American college basketball, looking at what his numbers were prior to going to Oregon, I would think the 3-point shooting should take a leap up over 30% comfortably. So he's got experience playing at the Division I high major level, right? That's a great thing. He doesn't need high usage to be effective. That is critical to me, right? Carolina doesn't need somebody that comes in and demands like, hey, I need 12 shots a game. They wouldn't be looking at someone like that. They need someone who can get the second unit organized, or if they're playing alongside the first unit, to get the ball to the guys it needs to go to and be in position, right? So that's the thing. So does this make sense? Would you go after Wei Lin? I would. I mean, obviously they are, but I like this look because, again, while I think we're always like, oh, we got to get the most talented names and all the most, you're looking for a fit, somebody that can come in and play the role that you need them to. And if Coach Malone has been very honest with Wei Lin, which I'm positive he has been about, hey, you can come and compete for playing time, but I will not guarantee you any sort of starting role. If Carolina then is finding a dependable backup guard who understands that, is not going to disrupt team chemistry, things of that nature, then Wei Lin makes a lot of sense to me. What do you think? I'd love to hear from you. I know we got some comments going. Maybe we'll catch one or two of those toward the end of the show, but you can drop it into the comments, or if you're in the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, go drop it in there. I'd love to know your thoughts on does Carolina need a backup point guard in addition to Isaiah Dennis, or to addition to Neo Avdalas, who will play on the ball sometimes while Terrence Brown is either playing off ball or on the bench, right? I'd love to hear from you. Now, I want to, because as I said, we are 48 hours as we're live away from game one of Carolina's College World Series this year. And the offense is what we're looking at tonight. So first, what I want to do is look at Carolina was not handling critical offensive situations very well last week, and in terms of getting hits. That's some nice sack flies, but we want to look at the numbers. How can that get better, and what's going to happen? All that coming up here in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel, the biggest stage in world soccer is here, as we were just saying. Every match feels like it has the potential for a memorable moment. One goal can completely change the energy of a game, shift momentum, and alter the outcome in an instant. That's what makes tournament soccer so exciting, from the opening whistle all the way to the final kick. And now, FanDuel is giving fans just like you another reason to stay locked into every match, with every goal pays. This is pretty cool. If you bet on a match, you get bonus bets for every goal scored in that match. More goals means more bonus bets. All you got to do is turn on that token. It's what I love about these tournaments. You can turn on a match between teams you don't normally follow, but you're suddenly one goal changes everything. Pretty cool. How about some College World Series odds? Carolina started off with the third best odds at FanDuel. That is now adjusted and leads the way at FanDuel plus 290. Followed by UGA at plus 300 and Texas at 320. Everybody else is pretty well behind that. Those are the clear, in a way, the three favorites. So as we get ready for the World Cup, from the opening whistle to the final kick, let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started right now. Thanks for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listener watch. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. If you never miss an episode, time to make it official. Join the Locked On Tar Heels Every Dayer Club, where you get ad-free versions of the show, one-on-one messaging with me, and so many other perks as well. Go check it out. That link is down in the show notes. By the way, it just occurred to me that I'm bad at math or how days work or things like that. I said 48 hours till the baseball game. It's 72 hours because it's Tuesday. The game's Friday. Silly, Isaac. In my head, I was like, it's Wednesday night. It's not. The week is, it's the summer. I don't know what day of the week it is. What are we talking about? Okay. One of the things that I love about Carolina's offense is it is so disciplined. They work counts. They get pitch counts up for the opposition. They take their walks. They're not so overly aggressive that they're not willing to take a walk and basically what we call pass the baton to the next guy. They will take their hit by pitches, all of that kind of stuff. And this is not some crazy power team, right? We've seen that with some other Carolina teams recently. This Carolina team is not. They manufacture runs. They get a lot of hits. They get a lot of doubles, right? You saw that with Owen Holland, a big way on Sunday with those 4 straight doubles in that game. I still am incredulous at that. But for the vast majority of the weekend, the Tar Heels were unable to get clutch hits in big moments. Let me give you some numbers. Left on base, just simply for those who might not follow baseball all the time, left on base is just if you end an inning and how many guys are on the base paths that you didn't get to score. You add that up for all 9 innings that you hit, and your total is left on base. So for the weekend, 28 men left on base, 8 on Friday in game 1, 13 on Saturday. That was the big one. And in game 3, they had 7 more for a total of 28. What about runners in scoring position? Scoring position is considered if you have a runner on second or third base. How did Carolina hit with runners in scoring position? For the weekend, they were 26. So this is, again, the thing. Carolina had great traffic. They had dudes on the base paths. They just couldn't get those key hits. Now, to be fair, multiple times they were able to get sac flies. You had the Schaffner sac fly in game 3 on Sunday. You had 2 different sac flies that were 2 of the 4 runs on Saturday. So you were getting some sac flies, but the clutch hits weren't coming. Friday, game 1, 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position. Saturday, game 2, 0 for 9. No hits with runners in scoring position. And then Sunday, 2 for 8. One of which was the walk-off double from Owen Holt. That's great. What was the other? It's not coming to me immediately. Oh, it was the back-to-back doubles that Hull and Macon Winslow had to score. No, when was that? I can't. There's so much that happened. Scoring. Let's see. Owen Hull doubled. Jake Schaffner scored from first. No. Macon Winslow. That was the 8th inning run. That's it. The back-to-back doubles from Owen Hull and Macon Winslow was in the 8th inning. So Carolina had 3 hits with runners in scoring position in the weekend. 2 of those 3 were in the last 2 innings. And you'll take them later rather than never. But my goodness, can we not stress me out so much? Thank you very much. And 3 for 26. What is that batting average? Let's pull up the old calculator and figure that bad boy out. 115. Gross. That is so bad. Okay, here's another one. What about how did Carolina do with runners on at least third and less than 2 outs? So again, for those of you new to baseball, basically the thought is since you get 3 outs in an inning, if you get a runner to third base and you have less than 2 outs, if you've got 0 or 1 outs, you should be able to get that runner in somehow, whether it is a hit, whether it is a squeeze play, which is where you bunt and the runner steals home, is running home, doesn't really steal home. You get a sac fly to the outfield, whatever it is, find a way to get that run home. That's what great teams do. So runners on third, less than 2 outs in this series. Game 1, Carolina was 2 for 6. Game 2, Carolina was 2 for 8. So that's 4 of 14. And then thankfully in game 3, Carolina was 1 for 1, 5 of 15. And that one would be, because that's just about getting the run in. It's not about hitting. So that would probably be Schaffner's sac fly. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so there you go. That's the only one. So 5 of 15, but hitting 333 in that moment, that's great. We will take that average. So Carolina achieved well in those moments. And obviously the 2 on Saturday were the 2 sac flies. So that number is accounting for that. That's not the batting average, 333. It's the success rate at getting runners in when they were on third base and less than 2 out. But for each individual at bat, I know the math on that's weird, but you understand. Now, the last one I want to mention is bases loaded. Carolina in game 1 was 1 for 2 with bases loaded. In game 2, they were 0 for 4. And in game 3, they didn't have any bases loaded situation. So 1 for 6 on the weekend. On Saturday, it just felt like time after time after time the bases were loaded and they could not get it done. It was so crazy. So I say all of that to say, I remind you of those numbers. Let me say a couple things. Number 1, baseball, one day to the next, can change everything. You might be in the coldest of cold slumps. You might be not clutch, not doing anything. But one of the things we always say about baseball is that hitting is contagious. And so if you're Carolina, you take what happened in the Super Regional and you scrap it out of your mind and say the last thing that happened was a clutch hit from Owen Hull. Let's build on that. Let's take the pressure off, just go out and swing. Now, they're going to have tough at bats. They're going to have to face one of the most difficult lefties in the nation on Friday in game 1, but you saw what they did in game 1 to USC's dominant lefty, the nation strikeout leader. He was gone in 3 innings. So do it. Just continue to do what you do. Coach Forbes, I thought, said this really well. If you keep creating all this traffic, eventually, either like the dam is going to burst or the floodgates are going to open or something of that nature. And that's absolutely true. It's all about putting yourself in position to do it, and then eventually you will. That's just the law of averages in baseball. With a team as disciplined and as just solid hitters as Carolina has, it's going to happen eventually. And my hope, my trust is that it will happen this weekend, starting Friday in Omaha, Nebraska. There's no guarantee of it, but surely after what happened last weekend, it's back. Because again, it's not that Carolina was shut out or shut down or couldn't get guys on base, and that's why they weren't scoring. It's just that they weren't getting them in, but there was traffic all over the place. That's what's encouraging to me. Does that make sense here? So Carolina, we need more clutch hitting. If you want to advance in this thing, it's gonna have to happen. I can't wait to see it. All right. I told you I'm starting to look at Ole Miss's offense. And there is a stat from their offense that is, pardon the father joke here, offensive in a big way. I cannot wait to share it with you. We'll talk about all that coming up here in just a second. Right after I tell you about Indeed, you got workplace chaos, you got deadlines stacking up, your inbox is overflowing, and the one position you still have to fill is sitting there wide open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, that's a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who are actually a fit for what you're looking for, the skills, experience, the location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. Instead, here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I'm talking to you about Indeed, companies just like yours are going to make 27 hires with Indeed according to their worldwide data. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching, more time actually interviewing candidates who check your boxes, because that's less stress, it's less time, but it's more results. So when you need the right person to cut through the chaos, that's a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of our show, watchers of our show, are going to get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Head there right now. Support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked On Tar Heels. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? That's a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Okay, I always like to go through and compare the offenses of teams. That's what we're kind of doing our deep dive on today. And as I look at the numbers of, I almost said USC, of Ole Miss's offense, as I look at the numbers of Carolina's offense, there are 3 things critically that stand out to me when comparing the two. I'll tell you that, and then we'll look at a few other things. Number 1, and here's the maybe singularly biggest factor. And I know this is not a series, so it doesn't, between Ole Miss and Carolina, so it doesn't have as much time to average out as it would, but in a one-off, you would hope that it would. Here's number 1 above everything else that stands out to me. Ole Miss strikes out a ton. I mean, so much. On the season, they've played 62 games, and they've struck out 657 times. That number might not mean anything to you, but let me put it to you this way. That is the second most strikeouts in all of Division I baseball. How many teams are there in Division I baseball? Let's scroll down and I'll tell you. I went too far. 308. So of all 308 teams in Division I baseball, they have the second most strikeouts in the country. Let me put it to you another way. There are only 4 teams that have 600 or more strikeouts. You've got Oklahoma State with 670, which is absurd. Ole Miss, 657. Then you got to drop all the way down to 622. That's Loyola Marymount, LMU, and Arkansas at 605. Everybody else after that is at least 30 away from 600. I mean, that's the gap we're talking about. Ole Miss strikes out a ton. 10.6 strikeouts a game for Ole Miss. How many innings? Like, let me help you continue to contextualize that. How many innings are in a baseball game? 9. They strike out 10.6 times a game. That's more than once an inning on average. Here's why that matters. Baseball, yeah, like there's been this whole renaissance over the last decade-ish or so where teams care less about striking out as much because they're trying to hit for power and hit a bunch of home runs. But if you're not putting the ball in play, you don't have as good a chance to score runs at any sort of consistent level. Your average goes down. Your chance for putting a rally together, stringing some hits together, because again, hitting is contagious, just doesn't happen. Ole Miss striking out 10.6 times a game is the singularly biggest stat, perhaps in this whole game on Friday. For comparison's sake, Carolina has struck out just 446 times this year. That is 211 fewer strikeouts. Carolina strikes out 7.1 times a game. That's less than a strikeout an inning, meaning Carolina is making contact so regularly. Why? As a hitter, what you're always taught is when you get to 2 strikes, instead of continuing to swing huge and get all the power you can behind it, pop your hips, you shorten up, you don't stride as much, and you're just swinging for contact. If the fastball is what you're struggling with, you like dial yourself up for that and then adjust to curves, changes, sliders, whatever it is. Got to take advantage of this, whether it's Ryan Lynch. And I think that's part of the conversation of who is the game 1 starter. Do you trust Ryan Lynch or Jason DeCaro more to be a swing and miss guy in this game? Whatever Coach Forbes decides, whoever's better at missing bats, that's who you're almost certainly going to see starting this baseball game. Number 2, things that stand out to me. How about this? Not only did the strikeouts stand out, Carolina leads in all but one main standard offensive category between the 2 teams. This is crazy. Carolina has a better batting average, on base percentage, slugging percentage, OPS, runs, hits, doubles, triples, base on balls, stolen bases, and hit by pitch. Carolina leads every single one of those. I could bore you with the details, but it's enough in most of those where it's like, yes, Carolina is clearly better. So that's really encouraging. Again, it's just one game, though. It's a one-off. Anything can happen, but you just want to mitigate risk and play the averages. But number 3 thing that stands out to me, the one offensive stat where Ole Miss leads Carolina, at least in terms of standard stats, is home runs. 107-80. They kind of dominate Carolina there. I'm going to be honest about that. Could that number, being plus 27 in home runs, be the trump card in a one-off game scenario? Perhaps. But I like big. Let me tell you one thing about Charles Schwab Stadium in Omaha, where the College World Series is played. You got to remember that this stadium plays big. It does not favor the major home run hitting teams who are hitting a bunch of home runs, because you can't go out and do that, which is one of the reasons that Carolina's offense should be well suited for this scenario. And just as like a reminder, Carolina, gosh, let me get a number, whatever. Carolina hits a lot of doubles. It's great. I'll just say that. But let me give you the dimensions so that you can understand what I'm talking about. At Charles Schwab, it is 335 down the lines. I mean, that's massive. That's a big old fat down the right and left field line. 375 to the power alleys to left center and right center, and then 408 straight away. To compare that to Swayze Field, where Ole Miss plays, it's 330 down the line, so 5 feet shorter, 365 to the power alley, so 10 feet shorter, and 390 straight away, 18 feet shorter. And I know those don't seem like massive numbers, but that makes a difference. Like, think about all the warning track shots that you see. Like that 18 feet makes a huge difference. And by comparison, the Bosch is much more similar to Charles Schwab. 335 to left field, exactly the same as Charles Schwab. 370 to left center, that's 5 feet shorter. 400 straight away, so 8 feet shorter. 355 to right center, and then 340 down the right field line. So that's actually the longest of any of the corners of those 3 fields. All that to say, Carolina's dimensions are much more similar to Charles Schwab than that of Ole Miss's field. And that just puts Carolina, in my opinion, in great shape offensively because they're more used to playing in this kind of facility. So I think that's great. And okay, there we go. I finally pulled it up. In terms of doubles, Carolina's 26th in the nation in terms of doubles. St. Mary's leads the way with 159. Carolina has 26 of them. Did I say 26? I mean 126 of them. That's hilarious. And so that tells me they're putting it down the lines and in the alleys, in the power alleys, in the gaps in left and right center a lot. And that is going to serve them well in Omaha. But again, going back to the last segment, that means that they get those guys in scoring position and then you got to find a way to get them in. That's what's key. And as comparison, Ole Miss doubles 89. So they don't have remotely the number of doubles that Carolina has. All this to say, I know there's all this talk about Ole Miss's power, but I think it might be neutralized by Charles Schwab Stadium. And then all the rest of the offensive numbers in terms of like making contact and all the traditional offensive numbers favor our Carolina Tar Heels. That to me is a big win. And I hope you agree. And if you don't, fine. Let me know in the comments. Would love to hear about it. We're a little over 30 minutes and I want to respect your time. So let me just get one or two comments from you. Go Tar Heel says, Isaac, any idea when Kaita and Samadurov will be on campus? I don't right now, but I'm anticipating Coach Rob being able to learn that soon, and then we'll be able to pass that on. Todd Pegram says, yes, I've used this kind of analogy as well. UNC is looking for a Bobby Fraser type with Lin. Love that. Great point. Bradley Houston, from what I saw about Lin, he is a good free throw shooter. This could help in having him score 6 to 8 points a game. Yes, he is. I don't remember if I gave the number on it earlier, but as a free throw shooter last year at Oregon, 82.4% in totality. He took, I just left his page. 51 free throws and made 42 of them. That's pretty nuts. Kyle Bland asks a great question here. Do you think Lin would want a starting role? Would he come to Carolina knowingly being a backup point guard? I'll say it this way. I think he would understand the situation that he's coming into and knowing that he's not likely to be a starter if he comes to Carolina. So that might be a feather in the cap of him going back to Oregon, where it's likely that he would have more opportunity in playing time. And I would not begrudge him that at all. Like, you want to play? I get that. But he might want to go somewhere where he can compete for minutes, knowing that he's probably not going to be in a starting role. But with all due respect to Oregon, being in a program that's almost certainly going to be more successful there. And so we'll look at that. All right. I know there's more comments, but I got to get you guys out of here. We'll continue to get ready for baseball as the weekend goes on. Coach Rob is going to join me on tomorrow night's show on Wednesday night. So that'll be a lot of fun as well. If you're listening or watching back later, thank you all for tuning in. Those of you that are here with me hanging out live, it's great to see all of you. I love all the regulars that we have, man. It's just growing this community in such a neat way. The community that we have in the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, you guys, what an honor and a blast it is to be part of this. I wish I lived closer to Chapel Hill so we could have like in-person community more regularly. I need to make that happen sometime. So we'll look into that. All right. If you've not subscribed to Locked On Tar Heels on video on YouTube, go down and do that in the corner. If you're not downloading the audio versions of the show, go find Locked On Tar Heels on your favorite audio podcast platform, follow the show, and then turn on automatic downloads and let them rip. Because as a reminder, every download, even if you don't listen to it, if you download it, it helps grow the show because it's those download numbers that people look at. So this is my big push. Would you help us and turn on all your downloads for the audio version? Thank you. That means so much. If you're not part of that Discord we talked about earlier, the link's in the show notes, absolutely free to be part of. The Everydayer Club, that link's down there as well. We're going to get out of here. I want you to say it with me. You know how this goes. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We're going to talk again tomorrow, but until then, peace.